You know what they say about ghosts, Sergeant. They don't belong with the living. Captain Cole Hartman stands at the edge of the training yard, Barrett rifle slung across his shoulders, watching 30 recruits struggle through obstacle walls under the late afternoon sun. His voice carries authority the way some men carry scars. Everyone listens when Viper 6 speaks. Everyone respects the legend who made 200 confirmed kills across 4 deployments. The man who came home a hero while others came home in boxes. But today, something shifts in his expression. Something cold. Across the red dust yard, a figure limps toward the medical supply depot. She wears fatigue stained with old blood, the kind that doesn't wash out no matter how many cycles you run. Her left leg drags slightly with each step, creating a rhythm that doesn't belong on a military base where movement equals strength and strength equals survival. Look at that limping medic. A private snickers to his buddy, loud enough for the whole formation to hear. Battlefield souvenir, huh? Laughter ripples through the group, 15 soldiers all watching the woman with the uneven gait and the hollow eyes. She doesn't react, doesn't even turn her head, just keeps walking, one painful step after another, hands loose at her sides. Except her breathing follows a pattern. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. The kind of rhythm combat specialists learn when their heart rate spikes past 140 and fine motor skills start to fail. The kind that keeps you functional when the world explodes around you. Hartman's face drains of color. His grip tightens on the rifle strap until his knuckles turn white. His lips move, forming words so quiet they might be a prayer or a curse. Evelyn. The name hangs in the desert air like smoke from a spent round. You're supposed to be dead. Nobody else hears him. The recruits are too busy laughing, the instructors too focused on stopwatch times and performance metrics. But Master Sergeant Miguel Reyes hears. He's 55 years old with 32 years of service etched into the lines around his eyes, and he hears everything that matters. Reyes turns his head slowly, watching the captain watch the limping medic. Then he looks at the woman again, really looks this time, the way you study a target through a scope instead of just glancing at movement in your peripheral vision. She reaches the depot entrance and pauses to shift a supply bag from one shoulder to the other. The movement is precise despite the limp, economical. Her left hand grips the strap with her thumb positioned along the seam, fingers wrapped in a specific pattern that has nothing to do with comfort and everything to do with training that goes deeper than conscious thought. Reyes has seen that grip before. Bravo Company, Spotter Division, the ones who calculated wind speed and bullet drop while lying motionless in positions so uncomfortable they'd make a yoga instructor weep. The ones who whispered corrections into a sniper's ear while enemy patrols walked 10 feet away. The ones who supposedly all died at Sangar Ridge 3 years ago. The woman disappears into the depot without looking back. Hartman stares at the empty doorway like it might close on the last 3 years of his carefully constructed reputation. Captain? Reyes keeps his voice neutral. You all right? Hartman blinks. The color returns to his face in patches, uneven and forced. Fine. Thought I recognized someone. Must be mistaken. Must be, Reyes agrees, but his eyes track the depot entrance like a compass finding north. Inside the supply room, Corporal Eva Lynn sets down her bag and leans against a metal shelf. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting everything in shades of institutional white and government beige. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a dog tag. The metal is old, scratched, with serial numbers that don't match any active service record. Her thumb rubs across the stamped letters the way some people worry a lucky coin. Back and forth, back and forth. The motion steadies her breathing, brings her heart rate down from the spike it hit when Hartman's eyes locked onto her face. He recognized her. Good. That's step 1. She slides the tag back into her pocket and begins inventory checking, her hands moving through stacked bandages and IV kits with the efficiency of someone who's done this 1,000 times. But her mind isn't on medical supplies. It's on a ridge in hostile territory where 8 soldiers died because one man made a call he couldn't take back. Outside, the training yard empties as recruits head toward the dining facility. Hartman remains frozen in place for another 10 seconds before forcing his legs to move. He walks toward the admin building like a man trying not to run, trying not to look back, trying not to believe what his eyes just told him was impossible. Reyes watches him go. Then he walks to the depot entrance and leans against the doorframe, casual as a man checking the weather. Need any help with inventory, Corporal? Eva doesn't turn around. No, thank you, Master Sergeant. You handle medical supplies the way my old spotter used to handle equipment checks. He says it conversationally, like commenting on the temperature. Methodical, specific grip on the packaging, thumb along the seam for quick access. Her hands still for a fraction of a second, then she continues working. Learned from good instructors. I'm sure you did. Reyes straightens up. Word of advice, though, if you're trying to stay invisible, you might want to stop breathing in combat rhythm when people are watching. He leaves before she can respond. Eva stands alone among the medical supplies, surrounded by the smell of antiseptic and sterile packaging, and allows herself one moment of stillness, one moment where the mask doesn't have to hold. Then she picks up her bag and heads toward the barracks, limping through the golden hour light while dust devils dance across the empty training yard. The dining facility at 1700 hours is controlled chaos. 300 soldiers moving through food lines, claiming tables, arguing about everything from sports to politics to who got stuck on the worst detail rotation. The noise level hovers somewhere between rock concert and active combat zone. Eva claims a corner table with her back to the wall and her eyes on the exits. Old habits. She picks at her food without much interest, her focus divided between appearing normal and tracking movement patterns in the crowd. Well, well, a voice cuts through the ambient noise like a blade through silk. Ghost Medic decided to join the living for dinner. 3 soldiers approach her table. The leader is a corporal with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes and a name tape that reads Jenkins. His buddies flank him like they've practiced the formation, creating a wall that blocks her from the rest of the room. Heard you're the one who showed up out of nowhere, Jenkins continues, setting his tray down across from her without invitation. No deployment history anyone can find, no training records worth mentioning, just appeared one day with a limp and a medical patch. Eva continues eating. Her grip on the fork is relaxed, professional. She doesn't look up. You know what we call people like that? Jenkins leans forward. We call them ghosts. Dead weight pretending to be useful, taking up space that should go to real soldiers. His friends laugh on cue. Several nearby tables turn to watch the show. Entertainment over dinner. Eva sets down her fork with precision, places her hands flat on the table, and meets Jenkins's eyes for the first time. She doesn't speak, doesn't need to. The look is enough to make him shift his weight backward just an inch, just enough to expose the uncertainty beneath the bravado. Got nothing to say, Ghost Medic? But his voice has lost some of its edge. No, Eva replies quietly. I don't. She picks up her tray and stands. The movement is careful, compensating for the injured leg, but there's no hesitation in it, no shame. She walks toward the dish return area while Jenkins and his audience watch her go. That's right, Ghost, Jenkins calls after her. Run away, just like you probably did when things got real. Eva deposits her tray and exits through the side door. Outside, the evening air carries the smell of diesel fuel and dust. She leans against the building's exterior wall and resumes her breathing pattern. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. From the admin building's second-floor window, Captain Hartman watches her through blinds he adjusted 5 minutes ago to get a better angle. His phone sits on his desk, screen dark, call history showing 3 outgoing attempts to a number that doesn't answer. His hand hovers over it again before pulling back. If you believe those who fall deserve truth, hit that like button and subscribe, because this Ghost Medic is about to rewrite history. Support us with the thanks button if you want justice to speak louder. The next morning brings a different kind of assault. Eva discovers it when she checks the duty roster posted outside the training office. Her name appears on the list for that afternoon's emergency medical response drill, but someone has added a note in red ink. Psychological fitness evaluation required before field clearance. She photographs the notice with her phone, timestamps the image, and continues to the medical bay for her shift. The work is routine, treating minor injuries, updating vaccination records, ordering supplies that perpetually run low despite consistent requisitions. Normal day on a normal base where normal things happen to normal people. Except nothing about this base is normal anymore. Not since she walked back onto it 3 days ago carrying a name that should belong to a corpse. During lunch, the social media campaign begins. Someone creates a forum post on the base's internal network questioning her qualifications. The post includes a photo of her limping across the training yard with the caption, "Is this who you want responding to your emergency?" Within an hour, 15 comments appear, most of them skeptical, some of them cruel. By 1400 hours, the post has 50 comments and 3 shares to other military social groups. By 1600, someone has edited her photo to add the word "unreliable" across her chest in bold red letters. Eva discovers this while checking supply orders on a computer terminal. She reads through the comments with the same expression she wore while being mocked in the dining facility. Neutral, distant, present but unreachable. Reyes appears beside her terminal like smoke materializing from clear air. You see they're coming for you online now. I see it. And nothing, Master Sergeant. Eva closes the browser window. Words on a screen don't change facts. Facts can be buried under enough words. Reyes glances at the blank monitor. Captain Hartman's got influence here. 30 years of respect doesn't evaporate because one person questions him. I'm not questioning him, Eva says quietly. I'm just existing. Existence can be a threat to the right kind of guilty conscience. Reyes straightens up. Watch your six, Corporal. Men who build reputations on bodies tend to protect those foundations. He leaves. Eva returns to her supply orders, but her hands have started a slight tremor that takes 4 cycles of breathing pattern to calm. That evening, during shift change at 2000 hours, an alarm cuts through the barracks area. Medical emergency at the obstacle course. Trainee down. Possible compound fracture. Eva grabs her aid bag and runs. The limp slows her down but doesn't stop her. She covers the 400 meters to the obstacle course in under 3 minutes, arriving to find a private lying on his side, clutching his leg, his face pale with shock. A crowd of soldiers forms a loose circle around him. Nobody's touched him. Nobody's started stabilization. They just stand there, waiting for the medic they called, watching her arrive with her uneven gait and her government-issue aid bag. Eva drops to her knees beside the private. Where's the pain? Left leg, below the knee. I fell wrong off the cargo net. She cuts away his pant leg with scissors designed for the purpose, exposing swelling and discoloration that suggests fracture without requiring an X-ray to confirm. Her hands move through assessment with practiced efficiency, checking circulation, testing range of motion, asking questions in a calm voice that keeps the patient focused on her instead of his injury. I need splinting material, she says without looking up, and someone get me a stretcher. We need to stabilize him before transport. Nobody moves. 15 soldiers watch her work, and not one of them reaches for equipment. Now, Eva adds, still calm, still professional. Unless you want to explain to his commander why you let him sit here developing compartment syndrome. A private finally breaks formation and runs for the medical bay. Another follows. The rest continue watching like this is theater instead of someone's career potentially ending on a patch of dirt. Eva stabilizes the leg using materials from her aid bag. She talks to the injured private the whole time, keeping him engaged, monitoring his pupils for signs of shock, checking his pulse every 30 seconds. When the stretcher arrives, she directs the evacuation with the kind of specificity that comes from experience under pressure. Keep the leg elevated. Maintain spinal alignment during transfer. Someone ride with him to medical and don't let him close his eyes until a doctor clears him. The evacuation team moves. The private goes to proper medical care. The crowd begins to disperse. Reyes emerges from the group, his expression unreadable. He approaches Eva while she's repacking her aid bag, checking inventory, ensuring everything returns to its assigned pocket. That was textbook, he says quietly. Better than textbook. You calculated distance to medical facility, estimated transport time, and prioritized circulation checks at intervals matching Bravo Company field protocols. Eva cinches the bag closed. Just standard medical response, Master Sergeant. Standard for someone who's treated fractures in the field, under fire, where getting it wrong means someone bleeds out before evac arrives. He pauses. That's not medic training, Corporal, that's spotter training. The kind Bravo Company used when their teams operated 40 kilometers past friendly lines with zero support. Eva stands, shouldering her bag. I learned from good instructors. You keep saying that. Reyes watches her with eyes that have seen 30 years of soldiers lie, panic, break, and occasionally rise to meet impossible standards. But good instructors don't teach you how to read terrain like a map just from visual assessment. Good instructors don't teach you to maintain combat breathing while treating trauma. That's muscle memory. That's survival skill beaten into you by circumstances where failure meant body bags. For the first time since arriving on base, Eva meets his gaze fully, holds it without flinching. Sangar Ridge, she says. The words are barely audible over the evening wind. If someone survived that, if someone made it out when the report said no survivors, what would you do, Master Sergeant? I'd ask why they faked their death. Reyes doesn't blink. And I'd wonder who they were protecting by staying dead. Maybe they weren't protecting anyone. Eva adjusts the bag on her shoulder. Maybe they were hunting. She walks away before he can respond. Behind her, the obstacle course stands empty in the gathering darkness. cargo nets swaying in the breeze like gallows waiting for the condemned. The next day brings the professional assault. Eva receives official notification at 0800 hours that she's been removed from active duty pending psychological evaluation. The notice cites concerns regarding mental fitness for field deployment and requires her to attend a review board meeting at 1400 hours. The notice is signed by Captain Cole Hartman, Training Division Commander. Eva reads it twice in the medical bay break room while her coffee goes cold. Around her, other medics prepare for their shifts, discussing weekend plans and supply shortages and everything mundane that comprises military life when nobody's actively dying. She folds the notice and places it in her pocket next to the dog tag she's carried since arriving on base. At 1330 hours, she presents herself at the admin building. The secretary directs her to a conference room on the second floor, where 3 officers wait behind a long table. Hartman sits in the center. To his left, a lieutenant she doesn't recognize. To his right, a major who looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. Corporal Lynn, Hartman begins, his voice carrying the professional neutrality of someone reading from a script they memorized. This review board has been convened to assess your fitness for continued field duty. Several incidents have raised questions about your psychological readiness for the demands of military medical response. Eva stands at attention before the table. She doesn't sit, wasn't invited to. What incidents, sir? Multiple reports of erratic behavior, failure to integrate with unit cohesion, documented instances of isolation from peer groups. Hartman slides a folder across the table. Furthermore, your personnel file contains significant gaps in your training history. No verifiable deployment records, no clear chain of command for your previous assignments. You appeared on our roster 3 days ago without proper clearance documentation. My clearance was processed through higher channels, sir. Higher channels that nobody can verify. Hartman leans forward. You understand how that looks, Corporal. In an environment where security clearance determines access to sensitive operations, unexplained gaps create liability. The major shifts uncomfortably. Captain, with respect, the corporal's medical response yesterday was exemplary. Private Morrison received appropriate care that likely prevented permanent damage. One competent response doesn't override systematic concerns about psychological stability. Hartman counters smoothly. We've all seen soldiers who perform adequately in controlled situations but collapse under real pressure. I'm not willing to risk lives on uncertainty. Eva remains silent. Her breathing maintains its steady rhythm. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. Do you have anything to say in your defense, Corporal? The lieutenant asks. He sounds bored, like this is the 4th review board he sat through this week and they all blur together. No, sir. Then this board recommends immediate suspension from field duty pending comprehensive psychological evaluation. Hartman picks up a pen, prepared to sign the document that will effectively end her operational capability on this base. Evaluation will be scheduled through medical command. Timeline estimated at 4 to 6 weeks. You're dismissed. Eva salutes and turns to leave. Corporal. Hartman's voice stops her at the door. One more question. Have we met before? She turns back slowly. No, sir. I don't believe we have. His eyes search her face like he's looking for proof of a lie he can't quite name. You look familiar, like someone I used to know. People say that sometimes, sir, common face. Maybe, but he doesn't sound convinced. Dismissed. Eva exits the conference room and descends the stairs to the main floor. She's 3 steps from the exit when Reyes intercepts her path, holding a tablet. Just saw the board's decision posted to Command Network, he says quietly. 4 to 6 weeks is long enough to bury evidence, long enough to make people forget why they cared in the first place. That's the idea, Master Sergeant. You're not going to fight it? Eva glances back toward the stairwell, toward the second floor where Hartman probably still sits behind his table, protecting the foundation built on bodies that should have come home. No point fighting during daylight, she says. Some battles wait for dark. That night at 2200 hours, Eva lets herself into the administrative building using a key card she obtained through channels that don't appear on any access log. The building sits dark except for emergency lighting in the hallways, casting everything in shades of red and shadow. She navigates to the archive room in the basement where old case files live in banker boxes stacked on industrial shelving. The air smells like dust and paper slowly turning to pulp in the desert heat. She locates the section marked Closed Operations 2020-2023 and begins searching. Sanger Ridge appears in box 17. The file is thin, too thin for an operation that resulted in 8 KIA and 0 survivors. She photographs every page with her phone. Incident reports, casualty notifications, official inquiry conclusions. And there, buried in the appendix, she finds it. Radio transcripts from the operation. Specifically, the call sign exchanges between the spotter team and their sniper lead. Viper 6, this is Hawk 2. Coordinates showing discrepancy. Request confirmation. Hawk 2, Viper 6, fire mission approved. Coordinates confirmed. Execute on my mark. Sir, reading shows friendlies at that position. Execute Hawk 2, that's an order. The transcript ends there. The next entry is a casualty report listing 8 soldiers killed when artillery struck their position instead of the enemy target 200 meters north. Eva photographs the transcript 3 times to ensure clarity. Then she returns everything to its original position and exits the archive room, leaving no trace of her visit except a single access log entry that won't mean anything to anyone who doesn't know what to look for. She's halfway across the main floor when footsteps echo from the stairwell. Captain Hartman descends into view. He's not in uniform, civilian clothes, jacket zipped against the night cold that settles over desert bases once the sun disappears. He carries a laptop bag and wears the expression of a man who came back to collect something he forgot. He sees her, freezes. For 3 seconds, neither of them moves. Corporal Lin. His voice echoes in the empty building. It's 22:30 hours. What are you doing here? Couldn't sleep, sir. Thought I'd review medical protocols in the library. The library is on the 2nd floor. You're on the main floor, near the archive room. Got turned around, sir. Still learning the layout. Hartman takes 2 steps closer. His face is difficult to read in the emergency lighting, all harsh angles and deep shadows. You know what I think, Corporal? I think you're not who you claim to be. I think you're here for a reason that has nothing to do with medical duty or psychological fitness. Eva remains still. I'm exactly who my orders say I am, sir. Orders can be faked. Identities can be stolen. Another step closer. I've been in this military for 30 years. I've seen soldiers crack under pressure. I've seen them lie to cover mistakes. I've seen them break in ways that never fully heal. But I've never seen someone look at me the way you do. Like you're waiting for something. Like you know something. I don't know what you mean, sir. Sangar Ridge. The words drop into the space between them like stones into still water. That's what you asked Reyes about. That's the operation you referenced in your carefully worded questions. Why? Just curious about base history, sir. Nobody's curious about friendly fire incidents unless they have personal investment. Hartman's hand moves to his phone in his jacket pocket. I could have MPs here in 3 minutes. Have you detained for unauthorized access? Search your phone and find whatever you've been collecting. Eva meets his eyes directly for the first time since he descended those stairs. You could do that, sir, but then you'd have to explain why you're also here at 22:30 hours, why you accessed the admin building outside duty hours, what you might have been looking for in the archive room yourself. The silence stretches between them like wire pulled taut. We both know what's in those files, Eva continues quietly. We both know what happened at Sangar Ridge. The only difference is which one of us is trying to bury it and which one is trying to dig it up. Hartman's face hardens. Careful, Corporal. You're on very thin ice making accusations against a superior officer. Not making accusations, sir. Just stating facts about archive access. Eva adjusts her position slightly, weight shifting to her good leg. But since we're having this conversation, I do have one question. When you gave that fire order 3 years ago, did you check the coordinates yourself, or did you just assume your spotter was wrong? The color drains from Hartman's face again, same as it did in the training yard when he first saw her. Who are you? A ghost, sir, like Jenkins said, dead weight pretending to be useful. Eva moves toward the exit, her limp pronounced in the empty building. The difference is, some ghosts come back for a reason. She exits into the night air before he can respond. Behind her, through the building's glass doors, she sees Hartman standing motionless in the red emergency lighting, like a man who just watched his past return from the grave. The next morning, Eva discovers someone accessed the archive room at 2300 hours, 40 minutes after she left, 40 minutes after her confrontation with Hartman in the hallway. When she checks the Sangar Ridge file again that afternoon, using remote access through Major Rourke's terminal, she finds that the radio transcript pages have been removed. The casualty reports remain. The inquiry conclusions remain. But the specific evidence of Hartman's order, of the coordinate discrepancy, of the spotter's warning, all of it has been extracted from the physical file. She sits in Rourke's office while the major reviews logistics reports and feels the weight of 3 years of planning collapse into ash. Problem, Corporal? Rourke asks without looking up from her paperwork. No, ma'am. Eva closes the terminal access. Just reviewing old training materials. Those materials still available? Some of them. Others seem to have been archived out of reach. Roark sets down her pen and fixes Eva with a look that suggests she's aware of significantly more than her neutral expression indicates. Sometimes evidence gets lost in bureaucratic shuffles. Files get misplaced. Digital records experience corruption, convenient for people who need things to stay buried. Yes, ma'am. Of course, physical evidence is only one form of documentation. Roark opens a drawer in her desk and removes a small device that looks like a thumb drive. Audio recordings, for instance, can exist in multiple locations simultaneously, redundancy being a cornerstone of good intelligence work. She slides the drive across the desk. Eva stares at it without touching. I don't understand, ma'am. Don't you? Roark leans back in her chair. 3 years ago, an entire spotter team died at Sangar Ridge. Official inquiry found it was enemy action during a firefight. Case closed. Heroes honored. Families compensated. Everything wrapped up neat and clean. Except one thing always bothered me about that report. The timeline didn't match the radio logs. Ma'am? Fire mission was called at 1923 hours. Casualties occurred at 1925. But enemy engagement was reported starting at 1930, 7 minutes after our people died. Roark taps the thumb drive. Someone fired on coordinates before confirming enemy presence. Someone made a call that killed 8 soldiers. And someone spent 3 years making sure nobody asked the right questions. Eva picks up the drive. What's on this? Original radio recordings from Sangar Ridge, backed up to intelligence servers before someone could sanitize the official record, including the exchange between Viper 6 and Hawk 2 about coordinate discrepancy. Roark stands. You've got 48 hours, Corporal. After that, I'm required to forward Captain Hartman's fitness concerns about you to medical command. Once that happens, you'll be off this base and out of reach before you can finish whatever you came here to do. Why are you helping me, ma'am? Because 8 soldiers died following orders. Roark moves toward her office door. And because someone who looks like she died with them came back 3 years later limping through my base with murder in her eyes and discipline in her breathing. That tells me 2 things. First, at least one person survived Sangar Ridge. Second, she's been waiting a long time to set the record straight. She opens the door. 48 hours, Corporal. Make them count. Eva leaves the office with the drive secured in her pocket and 48 hours on a clock she can't stop. Outside, the training yard fills with afternoon formations. Soldiers running drills, instructors calling cadence, everything normal and routine and completely unaware that 3 years of buried truth just got handed a deadline. She's crossing the yard when her path intersects with Reyes. He falls into step beside her without speaking, his presence more statement than conversation. Heard Hartman access the archive room last night, Reyes says after 30 seconds of synchronized walking. Heard he pulled files from the Sangar Ridge case. Heard those files are now missing pages. Coincidence, probably. Like it's coincidence you accessed the same archive room an hour earlier. Eva doesn't confirm or deny. They walk in silence until they reach the medical bay entrance. If someone was planning to expose a cover-up, Reyes continues, voice low enough that only she can hear, they'd need more than documentary evidence. They'd need a confession, something recorded, something that couldn't be disputed or explained away. Confessions require confrontation, Master Sergeant. They do. Reyes glances back toward the training yard where Hartman stands supervising rifle drills, his posture perfect, his reputation untarnished. They also require pressure, the kind that comes from knowing your carefully built foundation is about to collapse, the kind that makes guilty men say things they shouldn't because staying silent becomes worse than admitting truth. Will she lose everything she came back for? Drop your theory in the comments, and don't miss what happens next. Eva enters the medical bay alone, leaving Reyes in the doorway watching Hartman across the distance of 3 years and 8 bodies and one lie that's about to run out of time. Inside, she sits at her desk and stares at the thumb drive for 30 seconds before connecting it to her computer. The files load. Radio recordings from Sangar Ridge. All of them, including the exchange that proves Hartman gave the fire order despite being warned about coordinate discrepancy. She listens to her own voice on the recording. Hawk 2. The spotter who tried to stop 8 people from dying. The soldier who failed and got buried with them in official paperwork that nobody questioned because heroes don't murder their own teams. Except when they do. Eva closes the files and removes the drive. She has 48 hours to force a confession from a man who spent 3 years perfecting his story. 48 hours to make Captain Cole Hartman admit what he did when nobody was listening except the dead. Outside her window, the sun sets over the training yard, painting everything in shades of blood and shadow. Tomorrow starts the clock. Tomorrow begins the endgame. Tomorrow, the ghost stops hiding and starts hunting. But tonight, Evelyn sits in the medical bay and polishes a dog tag that shouldn't exist, preparing for a confrontation 3 years in the making with a man who thinks she's supposed to be dead. The 48-hour clock starts at 0600 hours when Colonel Marcus Myers summons Major Rourke to his office. Eva learns about it from Reyes, who learned about it from a clerk who overheard raised voices through supposedly soundproof doors. "Close the Sanger Ridge investigation," Myers reportedly said, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. 3 years is long enough to chase shadows. The families have moved on. The inquiry concluded. I want this file archived and forgotten. Rourke's response isn't recorded, but she exits the colonel's office with her jaw clenched and her stride deliberate, the kind of walk that means someone's about to disobey orders they can't officially refuse. Eva intercepts her outside the admin building. "Ma'am, I heard about the colonel's directive." "Then you know your timeline just got shorter." Rourke doesn't break stride. "He wants the case closed by end of business tomorrow. That gives you 36 hours instead of 48. "Understood, ma'am." "No, you don't." Rourke stops walking and turns to face her fully. Myers didn't come up with this directive on his own. Someone with influence suggested that reopening Sanger Ridge would damage morale, question leadership decisions, undermine confidence in operational command. Someone convinced him that protecting the institution matters more than 8 dead soldiers. Captain Hartman has friends in positions that matter. 30 years of service builds networks. Those networks protect their own. Rourke's expression hardens, which means if you're going to force a confession, you need leverage he can't ignore and evidence he can't destroy. Audio recording alone won't be enough. He'll claim it's doctored, taken out of context, misinterpreted by people who weren't there. Eva processes this in silence, her breathing maintaining its steady rhythm despite the spike of adrenaline in her bloodstream. "What would be enough, ma'am?" "Physical proof. Something he can't explain away. Something that connects him directly to the coordinates he falsified." Rourke resumes walking. "And you need witnesses, not just recordings. People who see him break. People whose testimony can't be dismissed as conspiracy." "Where do I find physical proof 3 years after the fact?" Rourke pauses at her vehicle. "Same place you find everything else the military wants forgotten. Archives nobody bothers checking because the format's obsolete and the equipment's been decommissioned." She drives away, leaving Eva standing in the parking lot with 36 hours and a riddle that sounds like a treasure map to evidence everyone assumes was destroyed. Eva finds Reyes in the armory conducting weapons inventory. He looks up when she enters, sets down his clipboard, and waits. "Master Sergeant, I need access to old equipment storage, the kind of storage where obsolete technology goes before it gets surplused out." "You mean the depot behind Maintenance Building 3, the one that's technically off limits without proper authorization?" Reyes doesn't phrase it as a question. "That would be the one." "And you think you'll find something there related to Sanger Ridge?" "I think someone who wanted to hide evidence might assume digital files are vulnerable, but analog backup tapes are too old to matter. I think they might have missed something because they don't remember how operations were recorded before everything went cloud-based." Reyes considers this for 5 seconds. Then he reaches into his pocket and produces a key ring. "Maintenance 3 Depot. Second key from the left. Be in and out before shift change at 1800 hours. And Corporal?" He meets her eyes with the weight of 32 years of service behind the look. "Whatever you find, make it count, because you're not getting a second chance." Eva takes the keys. "Why are you helping me, Master Sergeant?" "Because I trained Bravo Company spotters for 15 years. Because I recognize muscle memory when I see it. And because 3 years ago, 8 of my former students died in a fire mission that shouldn't have been called." His voice drops to barely audible. "If one of them survived and came back to set the record straight, the least I can do is hold the door open." The depot behind Maintenance Building 3 smells like motor oil and rust. Rows of industrial shelving hold equipment from 3 decades of military operations. Radio systems from the 90s, targeting computers from the early 2000s, archive boxes labeled with years and unit designations in faded marker. Eva navigates using her phone's flashlight, searching for anything marked 2022 or Bravo Company or Sanger Ridge. She finds it in the 3rd row, bottom shelf, buried under boxes of decommissioned night vision gear. A plastic container marked Audio Backups 2021-2023, analog format. Inside are 26 cassette tapes, the kind that require players nobody's manufactured in a decade. Each tape is labeled with dates and operation codes. She finds Sangar Ridge labeled Op Griffin, 15 NOV 2022. The tape itself is smaller than her palm, magnetic ribbon wound around plastic spools. Technology from an era before everything lived in the cloud where it could be remotely deleted. She pockets it and replaces everything else exactly as she found it, leaving no trace except disturbed dust that will settle by morning. Outside the depot, Reyes waits beside his vehicle. He doesn't ask if she found anything, just opens the passenger door and drives her to the audio-visual equipment room in the education building where ancient cassette players sit on shelves next to obsolete projectors and VHS machines. He sets up the player while Eva inserts the tape. The quality is poor, degraded by 3 years of storage in non-climate-controlled conditions, but the voices are recognizable. Hartman giving the fire order. Hawk 2, Eva's own voice, warning about coordinate discrepancy. Hartman overriding the warning. 8 soldiers dying 2 minutes later when artillery struck friendly positions instead of enemy targets. That's irrefutable, Reyes says quietly when the recording ends. That's murder through negligence at minimum. Manslaughter. Dereliction of duty resulting in death. It's also inadmissible in court without proper chain of custody. Eva ejects the tape carefully. Which means I need him to confess on record, in front of witnesses with context that makes denial impossible. You need to corner him where he can't run and can't deny what he's hearing. I need to make him believe I have more evidence than I actually do, make him panic, make him say things he wouldn't say if he had time to think. Eva secures the tape in her pocket next to the thumb drive Rourke gave her. I need to create a situation where staying silent becomes more dangerous than confessing. Reyes begins disconnecting the player. When? Tonight. 2200 hours. Medical Supply Depot. Eva moves toward the door. He'll come if I tell him I have documents that prove the coordinate falsification. He'll come because letting me keep them is worse than confronting me alone. You'll need backup. Witnesses. You and Major Rourke, hidden positions, recording devices. When he breaks, you come out and validate what you heard. Eva pauses at the exit. This only works if he doesn't know it's a trap until it's too late. Corporal, Reyes finishes securing the equipment. What you're planning is career-ending if it goes wrong. Entrapment, unauthorized investigation, manipulating a superior officer. Even if you're right about Sangar Ridge, the method matters. They'll crucify you for the process. They already think I'm dead, Master Sergeant. Can't crucify a ghost twice. She leaves before he can argue, walking into afternoon sunlight that feels too bright for what she's planning. 30 hours remain on her deadline. By this time tomorrow, either Hartman confesses or her chance at justice evaporates like morning dew on desert sand. Eva spends the next 8 hours preparing. She drafts a message to Hartman requesting a meeting at 2200 hours, claiming she has physical evidence that needs to be discussed privately before she takes it to CID. She phrases it carefully, using enough specifics to make him believe she knows everything but vague enough to make him panic about what she might have missed. She sends it at 1900 hours. He responds 14 minutes later with a single word. Where? Medical Supply Depot. Come alone. His reply takes longer this time. This is highly irregular, Corporal. So was Sangar Ridge, sir. No response after that. But Eva knows he'll come. Men who spend 3 years building walls around their guilt don't let those walls crack without attempting repairs. She coordinates with Rourke and Reyes. They'll position themselves in the depot's upper storage area at 2130 hours with recording equipment and clear lines of sight to the main floor. When Hartman breaks, when he says something that constitutes admission, they'll emerge and make the confession official. What if he doesn't break? Rourke asks while testing her recorder. What if he just denies everything and walks out? He'll break. Eva's voice carries certainty that comes from 3 years of planning this moment. Because I'm going to play him the tape. I'm going to make him hear his own voice giving the order that killed my team. And when he tries to explain it away, I'm going to show him proof that I was there, that I survived, that I've been waiting. The tattoo, Reyes says quietly. You're going to reveal your Bravo Company tattoo. Spotters get unit tattoos after first successful mission. Mine has the coordinates of Sangar Ridge embedded in the design, the exact coordinates Hartman falsified. Eva pulls up her left sleeve slightly, revealing the edge of ink that's been hidden for 3 years. When he sees this, when he realizes who I am and what I represent, he'll understand that staying silent won't save him. The evidence is literally written on my skin. Rourke and Reyes exchange glances that communicate 30-plus years of combined military experience processing the implications of what Eva just revealed. That's your proof of identity, Rourke says, but it's also your vulnerability. If this goes wrong, if Hartman gets violent or calls MPs before you finish the confrontation, you lose the element of surprise and gain nothing. Then it can't go wrong. Eva lowers her sleeve. I've been dead for 3 years, ma'am. I didn't come back to fail. At 2100 hours, Eva enters the medical supply depot and turns on minimal lighting. Enough to see, but not enough to be obvious from outside. She positions herself near the central supply table with her back to the wall and clear sight lines to both entrances. Rourke and Reyes arrive 30 minutes later through the rear access, moving silently to the upper storage platform where inventory overflow gets stacked on reinforced shelving. They set up recording equipment with practiced efficiency, test audio levels, and settle into positions where they can observe without being seen. Eva checks her phone. 21:45. 15 minutes until Hartman arrives. 15 minutes to control her breathing and maintain the discipline that's kept her alive and hidden for 3 years. At 21:58, footsteps echo outside the depot. The front door opens. Captain Cole Hartman enters wearing civilian clothes and an expression that suggests he'd rather be anywhere else but knows he can't afford to ignore this meeting. He stops 3 meters from Eva, close enough to talk but far enough to maintain distance. Corporal Lynn, or whoever you really are. You know who I am, Captain. You said my name the first day I arrived on this base. I said a name that belongs to a dead soldier. Hartman's voice is controlled, but his hands betray tension, opening and closing at his sides. Eva Lynn died at Sangar Ridge 3 years ago. Her body was recovered and identified. Her family received benefits. Her name is on a memorial wall at Fort Bragg. Is it? Eva steps forward slightly. Because I don't remember dying, sir. I remember calling out coordinates. I remember warning you about the discrepancy. I remember you giving the fire order anyway. Hartman's face hardens. You need to be very careful about accusations you make, Corporal, especially accusations about classified operations you couldn't possibly have knowledge of unless you obtained information through illegal means. Like this? Eva pulls out the cassette tape and sets it on the supply table between them. Analog backup from Operation Griffin, Sangar Ridge, 15 November 2022. Your voice giving a fire mission order despite being warned about coordinate problems. Hartman stares at the tape like it's a live grenade. That's classified material. Possessing it is a federal offense. So is falsifying coordinates that result in friendly casualties. Eva's voice remains calm, professional, the same tone she used when treating the injured private on the obstacle course. Want to compare which offense carries a longer sentence? This is entrapment. This is 8 dead soldiers finally getting someone to ask the right questions. Eva places her hands flat on the table, the movement deliberate and controlled. You made a call, Captain, a bad call. And instead of owning it, instead of facing consequences, you buried it. You let their families believe they died heroes instead of victims. You built a career on their graves. They were heroes. Hartman's voice rises slightly, the first crack in his professional composure. They died in combat serving their country. The circumstances don't change that. The circumstances are that you killed them. Eva's words land like hammer strikes. You had bad intelligence. You had a spotter telling you the coordinates were wrong. You had time to verify. And you gave the order anyway because admitting uncertainty would have damaged your reputation as Viper 6, the legendary sniper who never misses. You weren't there. But Hartman's face has gone pale again, that same bloodless color from the training yard. You couldn't know what it was like. The pressure, the timeline, the mission parameters that required immediate action. I was there, sir. Eva's voice drops to barely above a whisper. I was Hawk 2. I was your spotter. I was the one telling you the coordinates were wrong while you ordered me to execute anyway. The silence that follows is absolute. Even the building's ambient noise seems to fade, leaving only 2 people facing each other across 3 years and 8 bodies and 1 lie that just shattered. Hartman's mouth opens but no words come out. His eyes scan Eva's face, looking for proof of deception, finding only the truth he's been running from since that November night when everything went wrong. That's not possible, he finally manages. Hawk 2 died in the blast. I saw the casualty report. I saw your name on the KIA list. You saw what you needed to see to sleep at night. Eva begins rolling up her left sleeve, the movement slow and deliberate. But some things don't stay buried, Captain. Some things come back. The tattoo reveals itself inch by inch, black ink forming the crossed optic symbol of Bravo Company spotters. Below it, numbers that Hartman recognizes immediately because they've haunted his operational reports for 3 years. the exact coordinates he falsified at Sangar Ridge. Hartman stumbles backward, his professional composure completely shattered. No, this isn't real. You're not her. This is some kind of manipulation, some intelligence operation designed to... Designed to what? Eva's voice cuts through his spiraling denial. Designed to make you admit you killed 8 soldiers because your ego mattered more than their lives. I was protecting the mission. Hartman's control breaks entirely. I had intelligence suggesting enemy movement at those coordinates. I had authorization from command to engage. If I had delayed, if I had second-guessed every spotter's warning, we would have lost strategic advantage. You had intelligence that was 12 hours old and unverified. Eva steps around the table, closing the distance between them. You had a spotter, me, telling you in real time that the coordinates showed friendly identification transponders. You had every reason to pause and confirm. But you didn't. Because Viper 6 doesn't hesitate. Viper 6 doesn't show uncertainty. Viper 6 makes the call and lives with the consequences. I've lived with the consequences every day for 3 years, Hartman's voice echoes in the depot. Do you think I don't see their faces? Do you think I don't know what I did? Then why cover it up? Eva stands directly in front of him now, her injured leg supporting weight it shouldn't have to carry. Why falsify the report? Why let their families believe it was enemy action instead of friendly fire? Because the truth would have destroyed everything. Hartman's breathing is ragged, uncontrolled. It would have ended my career, ruined the unit's reputation, given our enemies propaganda victories that would compromise ongoing operations. 8 soldiers were already dead. Nothing I could say or do would bring them back, so I made a choice. I protected the larger mission by containing the damage. You protected yourself. I protected the institution. Hartman's face is flushed now, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool depot air. You think you're the only one who's had to make impossible choices? You think command doesn't factor acceptable losses into every operation? Those soldiers died serving their country. The method doesn't change the sacrifice. The method is everything. Eva's voice remains steady even as her hands tremble slightly at her sides. They died trusting you. They died following your orders. And you erased them from the record to save your reputation. That's not leadership, Captain. That's cowardice wrapped in bureaucracy. Hartman opens his mouth to respond, but movement from the upper platform cuts him off. Reyes and Rourke emerge from their concealment positions, recording devices clearly visible in their hands. Hartman's face cycles through confusion, realization, and finally resignation as he understands the trap he walked into. Captain Hartman, Rourke's voice carries official weight that silences any protest. Everything you just said was recorded. Master Sergeant Reyes and I witnessed your admission that you falsified coordinates at Sangar Ridge, resulting in 8 friendly casualties. We witnessed your acknowledgement that you covered up the incident to protect your career and unit reputation. Hartman looks between the 3 of them, his legendary composure reduced to the expression of a man watching his world collapse in real time. This is entrapment. Nothing I said here is admissible. CID can make that determination. Rourke descends from the platform. They'll be here in approximately 20 minutes. I notified them before this meeting began that we had credible evidence of falsified casualty reports and needed immediate investigation. 20 minutes, Eva repeats quietly. That's your window, Captain. 20 minutes to decide if you want CID to hear the tape and read the transcripts and piece together what you did, or if you want to tell the truth yourself. On record. In front of witnesses who can verify you weren't coerced. Hartman slumps against a supply shelf, the fight draining out of him like water from a broken container. Why? His voice is hollow. Why come back? Why not just stay dead and let the past stay buried? Eva pulls her sleeve down, covering the tattoo that proved her identity. Because they pulled me from Sangar Ridge barely alive. Military intelligence erased my identity and asked me to stay dead while they investigated whether the friendly fire was accident or something worse. I spent 3 years recovering from injuries that should have killed me, watching you get promoted, watching you train new soldiers, watching you build a reputation on the graves of people who trusted you. She pauses, her breathing still maintaining that 4-4-4 rhythm. I didn't return for revenge, Captain. I returned so you'd confess what you did to 8 soldiers who followed your orders. I returned so their families would know the truth. I returned because dead women don't file reports, but living ones can finish what they started. The silence stretches for 10 seconds before Hartman speaks again. The coordinates came through official channels. I didn't falsify them myself, but I knew they were questionable. I knew Hawk 2's warning had merit, and I gave the order anyway because the mission timeline didn't allow for verification delays. Because headquarters wanted results, and I was the golden boy who delivered results. His voice breaks on the last word. I convinced myself the intelligence was accurate. I convinced myself my spotter was overcautious. And when everything went wrong, when the casualty reports came in, I made another choice. I protected the mission by containing the narrative. I told myself it was for the greater good. You told yourself a lot of things, sir. Eva's voice is softer now. The question is whether you believe any of them. Hartman looks at her fully for the first time since the reveal, seeing not just the woman who ruined his career but the soldier he failed 3 years ago. No, he admits finally. I don't believe them. I don't think I ever did. Footsteps echo outside the depot, multiple people moving with purpose. The CID has arrived ahead of schedule. 4 agents enter the depot wearing casual clothes that don't hide their law enforcement authority. The lead agent, a woman in her 40s with gray streaking her dark hair, assesses the scene with practiced efficiency. Major Rourke, Master Sergeant Reyes, she nods to each. We received your notification about potential evidence in the Sangar Ridge case. I'm Agent Torres, CID. These are Agents Kim, Patterson, and Okonkwo. Her gaze settles on Hartman. Captain Hartman, I need you to come with us for questioning regarding Operation Griffin and subsequent casualty reporting irregularities. Hartman doesn't resist, just straightens his posture in a final gesture of military bearing and nods once. I understand. Sir, Agent Kim steps forward with restraints. I need to secure you while we transport to the investigation facility. Standard procedure. The restraints click closed around Hartman's wrists. He looks at Eva one more time before the agents escort him out. For what it's worth, Corporal, I'm glad you survived. I'm glad someone came back to tell the truth. I just wish it hadn't taken 3 years and your sacrifice to make me face what I did. It didn't take my sacrifice, sir. Eva's voice follows him to the door. It took your confession. I just provided the opportunity. The agents lead Hartman into the night, leaving Eva alone with Rourke and Reyes in a medical supply depot that witnessed the end of one man's career and the resurrection of 8 soldiers' truth. Reyes is the first to speak. Well executed, Corporal. Textbook intelligence operation, controlled environment, credible pressure, witnesses to validate, authority present to ensure legitimacy. It wasn't an operation, Master Sergeant. Eva leans against the supply table, suddenly aware of how tired she is. It was 8 people finally getting their story told correctly. Share this story if you believe truth outlives deception. And stay tuned, because Eva's mission isn't over. Rourke collects the recording equipment and secures the analog tape in an evidence bag. CID will need your full statement, Corporal. They'll want details about how you survived Sangar Ridge, who pulled you out, why your identity was erased, everything that led to tonight's confrontation. I'll provide whatever they need, ma'am. They'll also investigate you. Rourke's tone is matter of fact. Unauthorized access to classified files. Potential entrapment of a superior officer. Misrepresentation of your identity to gain base access. Even though Hartman's guilt is clear, your methods will be scrutinized. I expected that, ma'am. I'm prepared to accept consequences for how I conducted this investigation. Good. Rourke moves toward the exit. Because consequences are coming regardless of preparation. The difference is whether you face them with integrity or excuses. Based on tonight, I'm confident you'll choose the former. She leaves, taking the evidence with her. Reyes lingers, his expression thoughtful. What happens now, Corporal, after the investigation, after the trials, after Hartman faces whatever punishment military law decides he deserves? What happens to Eva Lynn, the soldier who came back from the dead? Eva considers this question for the first time since she walked onto this base 4 days ago. I don't know, Master Sergeant. I've been dead for 3 years. Being alive again is going to take some adjustment. You earned the right to figure that out. Reyes heads for the door, then pauses. And Corporal, thank you for caring enough about 8 soldiers to spend 3 years planning justice instead of revenge, for showing restraint when violence would have been easier, for proving that discipline and patience can accomplish what force never could. He disappears into the night, leaving Eva alone in the depot where Hartman's career ended and 8 Sangar Ridge casualties finally received acknowledgement. Eva turns off the lights and locks the depot. Outside, the base settles into its nighttime routine. Guard shifts changing, barracks lights dimming, the rhythm of military life continuing regardless of individual dramas. She walks toward the medical bay, her limp pronounced after hours of standing. Tomorrow brings statements and investigations and consequences. Tonight brings only the satisfaction of a mission completed and a report finally filed after 3 years of waiting. The consequences unfold with bureaucratic efficiency over the next 72 hours. CID launches a formal investigation into Operation Griffin, Sangar Ridge, and all related casualty reporting. Captain Cole Hartman is suspended from duty pending the outcome. His access to base facilities is revoked. His clearances are frozen. Every operation he commanded in the 3 years since Sangar Ridge gets reviewed for similar irregularities. Eva provides her statement to CID over 2 8-hour sessions. She details how military intelligence pulled her from Sangar Ridge with severe injuries, including compound leg fracture and traumatic brain injury. How they convinced her family she was KIA while they investigated whether the friendly fire was accident, negligence, or deliberate enemy action. How she spent 18 months in rehabilitation at a classified facility before being cleared to return to limited duty. How she volunteered for the undercover operation that placed her back on Hartman's base with a false identity and a mission to obtain confession through any legal means necessary. The investigation determines her actions, while unorthodox fall within the parameters of authorized intelligence operations. She receives official reprimand for methods that pushed ethical boundaries but no criminal charges. Her true identity is restored. Her personnel file is unsealed. Eva Lynn officially returns from the dead. The families of the 8 Sangar Ridge casualties are notified. The official report is amended to reflect friendly fire resulting from coordinate falsification and command negligence rather than enemy action. Death benefits are recalculated. Memorial services are updated. 8 soldiers who died following orders are finally acknowledged as victims of leadership failure rather than combat casualties. Hartman faces court-martial on multiple charges: dereliction of duty resulting in death, falsifying official reports, obstruction of military justice. The trial is scheduled for 6 months from his initial detention. His defense argues operational pressure and incomplete intelligence. The prosecution argues ego and careerism. The verdict, when it comes, is guilty on all counts. He receives dishonorable discharge, forfeiture of all pay and benefits, and 15 years in military prison. The sentence is harsher than many expected, but the court emphasizes that trust forms the foundation of military effectiveness, and Hartman's betrayal of that trust resulted in deaths that could have been prevented. Eva attends the sentencing hearing. She sits in the gallery wearing full dress uniform for the first time in 3 years, her Bravo Company insignia restored to her shoulder, her rank current, her presence no longer ghost but solid and real and undeniable. When the judge asks if she has anything to say before sentence is passed, Eva stands. Your Honor, 8 soldiers followed Captain Hartman's orders, because the military teaches us to trust our chain of command. They believed his judgment was sound, his decisions were informed, his leadership would protect them. They were wrong. But their trust wasn't wrong. That's what makes this betrayal unforgivable. Not the mistake in the moment, but the 3 years of lies that followed. The families who grieved deserve to know the truth. The soldiers who serve now deserve to know that accountability exists even for legends. That's what this sentence represents. Not revenge, accountability. She sits. The judge thanks her. Hartman is escorted from the courtroom in restraints that will define the next 15 years of his life. Outside the courthouse, Eva finds Major Rourke and Master Sergeant Reyes waiting by a staff vehicle. Rourke extends her hand. Corporal Lynn, or should I say Sergeant Lynn, your promotion came through this morning along with your reassignment orders. Eva shakes her hand, processes the words slowly. Promotion, ma'am? Combat experience, exemplary conduct under pressure, successful completion of a complex intelligence operation. Rourke lists the justifications with professional efficiency. You earned it. The question is whether you want it, whether you want to stay in after everything that happened. Eva looks at Reyes, who offers a slight nod. What are my options, ma'am? Continue as medical specialist with any assignment you choose. Transfer to intelligence operations given your demonstrated skills. Or separate honorably with full benefits and whatever future you want to build. Rourke pauses. The choice is yours, Sergeant. For the first time in 3 years, you're not following a mission parameter or undercover protocol. You're just Eva Lynn deciding what comes next. Eva considers the weight of that freedom. I need time to decide, ma'am. Take what you need. Your orders don't activate for 90 days. Rourke moves toward her vehicle. Whatever you choose, Sergeant, thank you for your service. The real kind, the kind that costs something. She drives away. Reyes lingers, his expression thoughtful. Master Sergeant, can I ask you something? Anything, Sergeant Lynn. Do you think what I did was right? Not legally right or procedurally right, but ethically right. Coming back from the dead to force a confession instead of just filing a report through official channels. Reyes is quiet for a long moment. I think 8 soldiers died because one man prioritized his reputation over their lives. I think that man spent 3 years avoiding accountability while building a career on their graves. I think official channels had 3 years to ask the right questions and chose not to. He looks at her directly. You gave those 8 soldiers a voice when everyone else preferred silence. Whether that's ethically right depends on whether you believe justice matters more than convenience. I know which side of that question I stand on. Thank you, Master Sergeant. Thank you, Sergeant Lin, for showing me that discipline and patience can accomplish what violence never could. For proving that ghosts can return not for revenge, but for resolution. For finishing the report. He departs, leaving Eva standing alone outside a courthouse where one chapter closed and another begins. 3 weeks later, Eva receives a package at her new quarters. No return address. Inside, a folder marked "Classified" with a familiar stamp in the corner. She opens it carefully, finding a single photograph and a typed note. The photograph shows a military operations site. Date stamp reads June 2025. Location coordinates indicate somewhere in the same region as Sangar Ridge. In the background, barely visible, stands a figure wearing gear that suggests command authority. The note reads, Sergeant Lin, Operation Tower 4 concluded with anomalies similar to Sangar Ridge. Coordinate discrepancies. Spotter warnings ignored. Friendly casualties attributed to enemy action. Investigation requested but suppressed due to operational security concerns. Your skills and experience make you uniquely qualified should you choose involvement. No obligation, no deadline. Just information for someone who proved truth matters more than convenience. Protocol remains active. Resources available. Decision yours. Some missions wait for the right person to see them through. The note is unsigned, but the implication is clear. Sangar Ridge wasn't isolated. Command failures resulting in friendly casualties happen more often than official reports acknowledge. Eva sets the photograph on her desk beside the dog tag she carried for 3 years. She stares at both items, while afternoon light fades into evening. Some ghosts return not for revenge, but to finish the report. The question becomes whether one report is enough when the folder suggests others remain unwritten. Eva picks up her phone and drafts a message to Major Helen O'Rourke, Intelligence Operations. Ma'am, I've decided on my reassignment. Request transfer to investigate operational irregularities, with emphasis on friendly fire incidents and casualty reporting accuracy. Skills applicable. Motivation clear. Available immediately. She sends the message before second-guessing, before fear or uncertainty convince her to choose the easier path. The response arrives 4 minutes later. Request approved. Report to Intelligence Operations Monday 0800 hours. Bring the folder. Welcome to Tower 4 Protocol, Sergeant Lin. Some missions wait for the right soldier. This one waited for you. Eva closes her phone and looks at the photograph again. Another operation, another set of soldiers who died following orders. Another ghost waiting to be heard. She stands, testing weight on her injured leg. The limp remains. The pain remains. The memory of 8 soldiers trusting the wrong call remains. Tower 4. Protocol awaits. Another mission. Another set of questions that deserve answers. Most of the time, the system protects them. But when it doesn't, soldiers like Eva Lin return from the dead to file the reports that others chose not to write. The mission wasn't over, it was just waiting. Some soldiers die in combat, some die from command failure, but none of them deserve to die forgotten because someone chose reputation over accountability.
Every soldier carry a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVB Story for more.